Welcome back to another downshift video. If you're a first time viewer, my name's Liam and this is my R34 GTR. On this video we're going to just sort of cover 5 things that I wouldn't say I was happy with about the car. I do love this car more than anything, you know, this is the dream car for me, but there's a few things that I'm not really sort of happy with about the ownership. So the first thing I want to talk about is the value. Since I've owned this car, it's rocketed in price. That's like a good thing for me personally if I want to sell the car, which I don't really want to do. But I feel it attracts the wrong attention of people. The theft value, obviously the theft goes up with the value being so high. I don't really like leaving it anywhere where I'm not really familiar with. I won't just sort of go to the shops in this car, or I refuse to leave it anywhere. I actually went out for a family meal before and I took this car, and because I was that paranoid of leaving it in the car park of where I was going, I actually took it home and got my other car, which probably does sound like stupid to most people, but it just makes me so paranoid. So the second thing that I want to talk about is the running costs. Now, before you buy this type of car, you'd expect it to be bad, and I knew that and I sort of understood that, but until you actually get it and drive it and realise how bad it is, I've never experienced it before. Before we actually started filming this video, I needed to fill the car up. And I haven't drove it really for the past few months because of the weather. We suspect that it's got different cans in, which we mentioned in one of the videos, like one of the last couple of videos. That being said, because of the such bad fuel consumption, I think when we get the opportunity, I'm going to try and check out the cans or whatever and see. So to insure this car, that was a bit of a problem also. At the time I was 25 and I struggled getting any company to give me a good insurance quote. I think one of the first insurance quotes I ever got was something stupid like 10 grand before I turned 25, and it's like absolutely insane. But the first payment for this car to insure it was £1,400 roughly. To some people that might be a good deal, but I thought it was quite expensive, but that's what I needed to pay for the car. With it being an import and sort of modified, the insurance companies obviously are going to charge a lot more. You need sort of specialist insurance for that. But at the moment it's actually a bit better, so happy about that. Also, expensive running cost is actually having the car serviced. The oil and stuff like that is fairly expensive, especially diff oil. That was quite expensive when I got that done. Some guy was looking at the car. Also, with it being kind of a specialist car, some places tend to charge a lot more for their services, which is sort of ridiculous because it is a normal car at the end of the day. It has oil in it and serviceable parts, so if you do get one of these, be prepared to pay some ridiculous amount for a company to try and service it for you. So the third thing that I want to cover is reliability. Since I've actually owned this car, I've changed a number of things. It did have a misfire, and it's always been in the back of my mind that it's going to sort of come back, but I think it's running good now. So it developed a misfire just over a year ago. Originally changed the plugs and it seemed okay for some time, and then it came back, and after talking with a few people that are a lot more knowledgeable than I am, ended up sort of troubleshooting the MAF sensor was bad. Inevitably changed the ECU to a link ECU and went with a map sensor. Since then it's been perfect, never had any issues since then. So with that being said, there's always a thought in the back of my mind that this car eventually will break down or the engine will blow. I think it's just a known fact that when pushed too hard or they're modified extensively, these cars can be not very reliable. This car isn't extensively modified. We suspect that it's got the stainless steel Garrett ball bearing turbos. The car's running 1.1 bar of boost, which if you ran the ceramic turbos in, it probably wouldn't be, I'd say, I don't think it'd last that long. When you look into them, the ceramic turbos, when they're run at a lot more pressure, the heat can affect the actual blades themselves, and it overexerts the actual inners of the turbo, causing it to fail, which will cause like catastrophic damage to the engine. With that always in the back of my mind, there's another problem that I kind of ended up finding out about these cars. One of my friends has actually fixed this problem, but the oil pump design is pretty bad. It's on a sort of flat knuckle fitting, I think it's kind of called, when in reality it should have been on a spline drive, which would eliminate the problem. Stopping and starting the car a lot can actually make this a lot worse, and eventually the tolerances will get worse and worse, and the oil pump will probably not drive, which will cause huge problems for the car, obviously not having oil flow. So that's always been in the back of my mind. I'd love to fix that, but at the minute it's fine, and maybe if the engine does come out at some point, that would be something that I'd 100% do. I've got a friend that has an R33, and one of Adam's friends, he actually fixed that by doing that spline drive, which I'd love to do. So the fourth thing that I want to cover is the cost to modify. I think it's all down to personal preference, like with any car, but obviously with me buying certain parts of this car, like the top secret GT2 spoiler, the top secret diffuser, the Trust TI exhaust, that was kind of expensive, although it was second hand. As I said, you can go either way with this. You can get cheap parts, and with a car like this I think you should give it the actual proper parts. Like Nismo, I think I've mentioned it a lot of times, the Nismo bonnet, although it's not like a must needed modification, it's like £4,000 to buy the Nismo carbon bonnet. Even the Nismo coilovers I've got on, they're an absolute fortune to buy. I'm sure they were upwards of 3,000 or something like that, or upwards of 2,000 I'm sure I've seen it for. So with like obviously engine modifications and things like that costing a fortune, I was fortunate enough to have genuine Z-Tune front wings and like a front Nismo bumper. We've sort of seen some figures of how much the Z-Tune front wings cost, and they're an absolute just crazy money to buy. You know, I'm so happy that I got these on the car. The LM GT4s that are on, again I think they were £3,000 to buy, roughly. That is, you know, I think that's maybe the going rate for certain wheels, but if I was to do that now, I'd struggle probably. So the last thing I want to talk about is the attention, and it works sort of both ways. Like, people do like attention driving cars, and this does give a lot of attention. I love driving it around. I love people coming up to me and appreciating the car and asking me things about it, but there's also a bad side to that. I'd say the less enthusiastic car people don't really know too much about it, and because it does stick out, obviously, this car, and people don't see many of them around, you do get certain people approaching you about this car. I had one guy a long time ago approach me about it and started asking like quite personal questions about the value and things like that, when he wasn't, in my opinion, a car enthusiast. I don't mind telling people how much this car was and how much it's worth, but it's a certain sort of category of people who will appreciate it more. I don't want people to think that, you know, because it's worth a lot of money, or it's a good car because it's worth so much money, when it's not the case. It's just, obviously this is a hugely iconic car. I wouldn't sell this car for anything else, I don't think. This is like my dream car, as I've said probably 100 times in all the other videos. So this wasn't really supposed to be negative. It's just, I just wanted to cover 5 things that I'd sort of say that I wasn't too happy about with owning the car, which I think I've covered. There's probably a lot more involved with that. This is just a sort of rough coverage of that, what I think it is. If anyone would be interested in seeing what is actually on this car, let us know, because we're going to probably make a video when we get a workspace to sort of maybe go over everything and look into it ourselves, because I actually haven't had. I probably have had the chance to do, but I haven't went through everything on the car, although I know pretty much what's on it. I think it would be a really good idea to get it up on the ramps and things like that, and spend a full day going over the car, just checking what's under, obviously the hood, what's in the engine, without stripping the engine too far back. I don't want to rebuild it at the same time. Just sort of going into that in more detail. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said, there's not a lot to hear about this car. That was just the things I didn't like. So this is where I forget what I say. I'm really bad at making videos. I always forget what I say. Tore my, hang on. The LM GT4s